Welcome to the Economy Magazine at I-24 News, where we give you a daily view on world markets and the global economy. I'm Natalie Ehrlich. Well, coming up today, Chinese stocks whipsawed and volatile trading. And 3D printing brings photographs to life. Let's start now with the headlines. Well, Chinese stocks whipsawed on Tuesday. At one point, the Shanghai Composite dropped as much as 5%, then rebounded 1% later in the day. The smaller Shenzhen Composite was down 1% after falling more than 6%. Beijing's efforts to step up stock purchases may be reassuring some investors, though sentiment does there remain quite shaky. Among the sectors with the sharpest declines include big brokerages, insurers, as well as banks. Reuters, meanwhile, reporting that China's securities regulator was investigating share dumping on Monday. Well, for insight on the dramatic trading in China, we are joined by financial markets expert Andy Bush in Chicago. Thank you very much for being with us today.
My pleasure, Natalie.
Well, help us make sense here of these huge market drops. Do you think Beijing will be able to restore confidence?
No, as a matter of fact, they are in a crisis of confidence right now. The Monday's drop of 8.5% really underscores the shakiness of the Chinese stock market. The drop occurred because the state-based margin lending facility returned money that they had borrowed to the banks, indicating that they may be pulling back from margin lending. That set off a panic amongst the individual Chinese investors, and that drove it down 8.5%. The fact that on Tuesday that we had the volatility that we did, where the Chinese stock market was down 5%, then up 1.7%, and then down 1.7%, tells you everything you need to know. They are very, very nervous over what's happening in China, and rightfully so. No one seems to have a good handle on what's happening there.
Indeed, we're seeing so much volatility there in those sessions. Let's move now to oil. How long do you expect softness in that market?
Yes, we're seeing increased amount of supply come onto the market, whether it's going to be from Iran and the deal with the United States, and obviously that's about 500,000 to 1 million barrels per day, or increased production in southern Iraq, or the stockpiling that we're seeing in the United States. As those continue to grow, we're seeing a lot of supply hit this market. So I don't know exactly how far this thing can fall, but at West Texas Intermediate's at 47, Brent's around 52. I think we can see Brent below 50 in a relatively short period of time here.
All right. Well, thank you as ever for your insight, Andy Bush. Staying now on the topic of oil, BP reporting an earnings loss on Tuesday. Revenue hurt there by weak oil prices, as well as a multi-billion-dollar fine the firm had to pay to the U.S. government over the 2010 Deepwater Horizon disaster. The London-based firm said the loss was roughly $6.27 billion, compared with a profit of $3.18 billion just a year earlier. This drop also reflects the $18.7 billion settlement to the U.S. government, as well as 5 states, after the disastrous oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico back in 2010. Well, Delta Airlines has agreed to buy 3.55% of China Eastern Airlines, making it the first U.S. carrier to own part of a Chinese airline. The deal could prompt other U.S. airlines to partner now with Chinese carriers. Delta expects China will become the biggest market for travel from the United States. The deal is a direct challenge to United Continental, currently the leading U.S. carrier for service to China. In other deal-making news, Zurich Insurance said on Tuesday it was considering a $7 billion bid for British rival RSA Insurance Group. Impending European regulation has already prompted a number of deals aimed at diversifying insurers' revenue streams, as they soon will be required to keep even more funds on reserve to protect against potential shocks in the market. Well, jewelry, the industry seems marked for a glittering future, at least according to McKinsey. Global sales already at some 148 billion euros, with sales expected to grow 5 to 6% each year, hitting a grand 220 billion euros by the year 2020. We recently sat down with an entrepreneur making innovative inroads in this market. Let's watch. On set, we have Tanya Dam-Bakopsa, CEO of Morpheus, a startup which uses 3D printing technology to custom make jewelry from a photograph. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Well, how did you come up with this idea?
So I'm an industrial designer, and I've been familiar with 3D printing for a while for prototyping. And as this technology has evolved, come down in price, better material availability, and the demand for custom making anything, I saw these two big markets colliding. or merging, I should say.
Jewelry and 3D printing.
And jewelry was the industry to go about it, because jewelry has a lot of emotions in it, and that would be a point where someone would say, I'd really like to make something of my own. So that's how we decided to focus on that market.
Well, this sounds very creative. How does it actually work?
So basically, it's a platform. Any person from anywhere can upload a photo, a sketch, or several images up to our platform. It's matched to designers all over the world. There's freelance designers that are registered for the platform, and the designers work in a 3D virtual workroom with the client until they get to the final model that the client is happy with, and only then does it go to production. We're also linked to service bureaus, which are the manufacturing arm of this platform, and once the file is ready for production, it's sent digitally, created, and then sent to the client. So you will be sitting in Paris, having maybe a designer in New York, doing your product, depending on where the manufacturing is, what makes sense logistically, from the comfort of your own home.
So this is intercontinental and globalized product here. Can you show us some of your examples?
Yes, so if we're talking about an emotional product, this client here, she lost these earrings. These are 10 of the century pearl and diamond earrings that she received from her grandmother. So she uploaded the photos to the network. She was matched with a designer, got a quote, and this is a close-up of what the workroom looks like, where you can actually add comments and iterate with the designer. And this is the actual product.
Wow. They're beautiful. So how much is something like that, actually? How much would that cost the person?
So without talking about this specific product, it depends. It ranges from a few hundreds to, depending if it's diamonds, an engagement ring could be a few thousands.
And tell us also about this process, though, here. So you're just, how does this actually print out from the machine? Does it come with the gems?
So the process is actually, there's a video running in the background that shows part of the process. The actual design is done in a CAD or any other 3D modeling software. That is fed, so to speak, to a printer. If you were thinking of a 2D printer that needs a file, a 2D file, 3D printers need a file to actually create what it is they're printing. And that's where we come. We bridge that gap of actually creating these files for people. And then the machine, wherever there is a parametric point, it layers material. So it either layers or melts or synthesizes. It depends on the material that you're actually using. Different machines work with different materials.
And what kind of materials can you use?
So you can do direct metal printing. You can do that in stainless steel. You can do it in titanium. You can also do it in gold. You can also do it in silver. It is not cost effective to what we're doing. So what is commonly done in the jewelry industry is that it's actually printed in wax, a resin, and then it's melted and goes through for traditional casting.
So it has almost like a gold plate on it, or
No, it's actual gold.
Okay.
Later on is casted, yes.
Well, what are some of the challenges that you've come across in this process?
Many. So it's a startup. So there's obviously getting the word out, seeing what people are really interested in. The example I gave was for someone who wanted to recreate something. We saw a stronger and stronger demand for people who are actually interested in engagement rings. And because that is the moment in your life when you're invested in actually creating something really unique. And at that point, people want to touch and feel. So that's something you can't do online, right?
Right.
So that's actually bringing me to where we're at this point. We're expanding our offering to actual brick and mortar stores. I can't talk too much about that, but at a certain price point, people want to walk into a store. Now, these stores have all this inventory and have no customization done in store. So we're bridging offline and online and having customers being able to go into a store and work with our process.
And you're bringing them closer to the process of actually designing these products,
right.
imagining them. They become even more attached to the product itself in a way.
I think one of the beauty, the beauty of this process is, like you mentioned, that the clients are involved and are able to iterate. So if you were to go to any craftsman, that's their craft. They do it, you come back, you pick it up. Here, you're part of the process. You're able to change things on the spot because nothing is being made until you approve it. It's all digital files. So there's a reduce in cost and less errors.
Well, thank you so much for your insight. Very much appreciate it.
Happy to be here.
3D printing is also used in the world of medicine, especially helpful now in getting prosthetics to patients in rapid time.
9-year-old Jesse is learning to walk with his new prosthetic leg. It's his first time without crutches since being hit by a truck 3 years ago.
I was able to fetch water before, but when I lost my leg, I couldn't.
Uganda has around 250,000 child amputees, yet just a dozen specialists in prosthetics. Now a team of Canadian scientists has introduced 3D printing technology, allowing patients to get personalised prosthetics fitted in just one day.
In one week, with all technique, we can work on 2 patients. Like if we are all active, like if all other technicians are here, we can work on 2 patients. But with 3D technology, we can only, the number of patients worked on increases like maybe 10 per week or 15 per week, depending on their sizes.
The first step is to make a 3D scan of the limb, a procedure that takes about 40 seconds, before the 3D printer produces the sockets that's perfectly suited to the patient. The process takes around 16 hours.
Because when you're scanning, you actually have the actual limb, Yet with the previous way of making limbs, sometimes the plaster of Paris expands, or the plaster of the cast expand, because we put water. So this time around, you have the shape, the real shape of the socket, and when it comes to fitting, it fits really nice.
A day after the scans, and Jesse is getting used to his new leg. Doctors say this new technology will allow them to help more patients, giving them a chance to return to their normal lives.
And for the latest on the Startup Nation, we are joined on set by Noah Aron, economic correspondent at Channel 2. Well, thank you for being with us. What did you bring us for us today?
Okay, so usually, when you really need a specific document, you can never really find them. I mean, it's really hard to find that specific insurance document or something that you really need. And you can store them on your Gmail and on your Google Drive or something like that, but it will be really, really hard to find them. And Dokity is an Israeli app that is aiming to be the ultimate app for your documents. And what's really cool about it is it can scan your documents and it can actually understand what they mean. So it can understand if your insurance is about to expire and let you know, and tell you need to renew that, or if something else is about to expire, which is a really cool feature for that one. It can also sort your different documents, different topics. You can build, different topics for your kids if you have a family, and make it easier for you to sort out your documents. It can even look through your Gmail and your Google Drive and see where these really important documents are. I mean, look for your insurance plan or different ID cards that you've scanned before, and you just want to put all of that into that app. It can actually look through the different files that you have, recognize that, and put that all in that one app. The ultimate plan that these guys are actually planning us, because they need to make money somehow, is that they're planning to integrate with governments and with different partners that are relevant to this, and kind of make some kind of a plan. So let's say if they partner with a company, with an insurance company, they'll get the commission from those companies, and this is basically the business model for this. But this is a very, very comfortable app. It's already working. You can just download it, and it's very, very comfortable.
Okay, sounds pretty promising here.
Definitely. Now, the second one that I have for you is a very cool free browser app. Usually we use the ad blocker, the regular ad blocker, and it kind of prevents the harmful ads and the pop-ups that you really don't like. It also, it's good for your privacy. The problem is that all the money from those ad blockers goes to the ad blocker itself, to the company. And Stans is an Israeli browser app that is trying to change that. They're actually trying to turn your browsing into donations. This is what they say. And what's really cool about it is that you can basically download it for free, and it's just there on your browser. But before it starts, you can choose what you want to donate to. If you want to donate to a specific NGO or something like that, and then once your ads get blocked and the other advertisers are actually, they're working with Stans, but the money doesn't go straight to the ad blocker, it can also go to that NGO or a specific cause that you've chosen before. So it's just a different way of ad blocking. It's a different kind of browser app that is kind of more social, and I find it very, very cool. Hopefully they'll be more successful. They have more than 1,000 users already, so they're getting there, but they need more.
And what are some of the causes, though, that they're providing?
So I mean, for example, they work with Latet in Israel. They work with the Action Against Hunger in the U.S., which is pretty cool. And, you know, it's just a different way. You know, you can feel like you're just browsing the internet and you're actually helping the causes that you've chosen.
Well, thank you so much for being here. We do appreciate your insight as always. That wraps up our show today. Do stay tuned tomorrow, same time, same place at the Jaffa Port in Tel Aviv. I'm Natalie Ehrlich. Thank you for watching.